Hello, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for joining us today for the webinar, A New Era of Investigation, Scalable, Forensic, and Integrated. I'm Sophie Bovey, and I'm the Product Marketing Manager here at Binalyze, and I'll be your host for today. I'll shortly be introducing our speaker, but I wanted to spend a couple of minutes just setting the scene a little bit for you. Why are we talking about a new era of investigation? So, as we know, cybersecurity is a crazy world, and it has hit an inflection point. Attackers have always moved very fast. They've always been evolving their techniques, always looking for new ways to evade existing detection and monitoring solutions. And with AI, this is changing even more from both sides of the battlefield. Attackers are moving increasingly fast. They're becoming a lot more agile. The complexity of the techniques has now been commoditized with AI, and the volume is really starting to hit an all-time high. Meanwhile, the attack surface is also expanding. This is something we've heard for years now and continues to create blind spots. And the SOC really remains overwhelmed, drowning in alerts without enough context to act. And so when the threats do get escalated to the IR teams, they too face the challenges on their side. If the first investigative battle is validating whether there's a true positive, the next battle is really deepening that investigation and to understand the scope of the impact, pinpointing root cause, and really being able to quickly investigate accurately and consistently enough to recover with confidence. So this is why we're talking about investigative readiness and why it matters. It's really about resetting how we investigate to deliver the answers that we need to drive resilience. And that's the spirit behind Binalyze's automated investigation and response platform, AIR. And we're delighted to be here today to show you the latest release, 5.0, designed to deliver richer context, conclusive insights, and more flexible integrations. It's really about up-leveling the investigations for our IR teams as well as for the broader SOC team. I know that I've kept you waiting long enough, but just if you give me 30 more seconds before we get started, the housekeeping slide, just a couple of notes for you. There is a Q&A box, so feel free to drop questions along the way. We'll do our best to answer them throughout the presentation, but we also have some time saved at the end to answer questions. And then obviously, the other thing is this session is being recorded, so we will be sharing the recording with you afterwards. And with that, and without further ado, I introduce Sult, Binalyze's Chief Investigator, who will be providing us with a walkthrough of the latest release of AIR 5.0, and just generally imparting us with all the lessons from his years of experience investigating incidents. Lee, over to you.
Awesome. As mentioned, my name is Lee, and I'm the Chief Investigator here. As far as my background, I've been in digital forensics and incident response for going on 20 years now. I've supported field investigations with the U.S. Secret Service. I co-founded the first cybersecurity startup based out of Southeast Asia, and I was the founding member of the cyber incident response team for Palantir, where we focused on responding to cases with 200,000 endpoints or more. And now I'm here, and I lead our CERT team, which stands for Customer Experience, Readiness, and Training. And that is intentionally a double entendre. We want to let our customers know that we are for responders by responders, and we support our customers' cyber emergency or cyber incident response teams. With that, we want to get into a couple of polls. And Sophie, if you have any context here that you'd like to add, please go ahead. Or if you want to go ahead and click the poll buttons. I think we have 3 of these today.
Yes.
Just want to get a little bit of context from the audience so that we make sure we're addressing the right things. I'm not sure what the poll feature looks like in our new platform here.
No, but I can see that we're getting some answers. Quite a good mix of people.
Awesome. And I have all of you guys over here on my right side. So if you see me looking over here, I'm trying to pay attention to the questions and our audience and my co-host.
Great. All right. So we've got a good mix, but it looks like most of us here are incident responders or operational leaders. with some threat hunters and some people who do alert triage. So I will stop the poll and move us to the next one, which is really about understanding the areas that you're having to sacrifice the most during investigations, particularly when you're under pressure. Don't be shy, guys. All right, again, good mix of things coming through. No real surprises there and no other, so there's no mystery lurking. Oh, I've said that, now somebody said other. If you want to share what that other is in the chat, that would be really helpful, but I'm going to stop this poll. And then the final one is just to get an understanding of some of the things that you struggle to answer during investigations. Lee will probably mention this during his demo, but we often talk about the 4 investigative questions, so really keen to understand where we're struggling today still as practitioners. All right. Any initial thoughts, Lee, on those?
Not off the top of my head. Happy to take some further questions, and we'll have plenty of time at the end for QA. So if you guys want to dig into anything, I'd love to do that. Also, as we're going through the demo, feel free to add any questions or anything you might like to see. Sophie will stop me, and we'll cover anything you guys are interested in.
Great.
Awesome. So we can jump into the intrusion scenario. And so I'll dive right into this. So this was created in our lab environment. It's a scenario that many of you will be familiar with. There's a few reasons that we've picked this one. One, we've been seeing a lot of exposed RDP services lately, so it's come full circle. We saw a lot of phishing last year. This year, it seems like every case I get pulled into has an exposed RDP or some other remote access application. Of course, we always see administrative credentials abused, and we're also seeing PS exec, other types of binaries that already exist in the environment. So fairly simple. We've only got 4 systems in scope for this investigation, 1 domain controller and 3 other workstations, and we'll see exactly what RDP and PS exec and those things look like in an environment. So we'll go ahead and we'll dive into the demo. And there's a few things that I'll want to point out here. We'll finish with taking a look at our timeline feature that was just released in 5.0 a week or 2 ago. And yeah, so let's hop right in. This is our Binalyze platform. This is what a dashboard looks like for a specific organization within our console. And one thing I want to point out before we really get started in the demo is if you guys are an MSSP or a consultancy, you have the ability, like multi-tenancy is built right in. We also have some of our enterprise customers that will break down different organizations. So some will have, say, a production environment and a staging or a development environment. We have a couple of organizations that'll have their finance or their executive team separate. We have other organizations that'll do like their PCI environment as one, or say a customer will have their PCI environment in a separate organization, et cetera. Very common. You see this type of thing across EDRs and so on. We support exactly the same workflow so that we can mirror your existing operation. Really, the key to this, though, is as you start a case, I want to take a look at the open ones. I have this example case in our Binalyze CERT organization. This is all for training and demo purposes, as you can see. And as I click into that case, I can see that I have 4 systems that have been where we have collected evidence. The domain controller, it's still online because the administrators are afraid to take it offline. And then we have three workstations that have been isolated, network isolated. Network cables have been pulled off. So really the key feature that we could go over the various ways that we collect evidence, whether that's a full disk image, running detections, or collecting triage data. Really the thing we want to focus on today, though, is the investigation hub. So this is what comes after you've collected evidence. Maybe you've had an alert in your EDR and it's automatically triggered a collection from Binalyze. We are very easy. It's very easy for us to configure what that collection might be. We can automatically trigger full disk images. We can collect a single indicator of compromise or a single artifact, or we can collect, all of the 600 various artifacts that we support. This would be the dashboard. Frankly, I don't spend too much time here, but it can be useful if I'm looking at multiple cases in the same day, which is common for my workflow. The thing that I don't want to see here is kind of what many other experienced investigators would see. There is more red on the domain controller. That would be expected in a case like this. So I might want to start my investigation there. And next, I have several flags on the right side, and I can see that none of these flags have been marked. So that gives me an idea that I haven't had any other analysts, responders, or investigators in this case yet, or at least they haven't added any of their own context. Lastly, I get an idea that I've got a few assets on here. I've got 83 different types of artifacts or evidence that have been collected. It's just some context, not super beneficial at this stage. And I can also get an idea of like the total number of items that could be reviewed. The nice thing, though, or where I normally start my investigation is in here, and I like to go back to a physical corollary of firefighting. So when you're dealing with an actual structure fire, you'll generally have 2, maybe 3 phases. So there's the firefighting phase, and then after the fire is contained, you may have an arson investigation phase or try to identify how and where that fire started. But before any of that occurs, you're going to get that 911 call. That might be the SOC alert, your level 1s. Then you're going to have your first responders, the first due out to that structure fire, and they're going to have to do a site assessment. So is there smoke showing? Are there flames showing? Which sides of the structure may be involved? How many stories is the structure? Is anyone trapped inside? These types of questions. In a cyber investigation, I call this my evidence exploration phase, and I try to go through this as rapidly as possible. And that's what we use this findings page, or that's the first use of this findings view. So the very first thing I'll do, if I am this first responder and I'm just coming up to speed on this case, is I'm going to sort all of my findings by severity, or by finding type, as it's called here. And I'm quickly I can see right now, just by sorting the other way, it looks like there could be a brute force attack. But right now, I just want to get an idea of the things that I might see. So number one, I want to configure this view a little bit if I haven't done that before. And since I reset everything, I haven't done that yet. And I want to, just like a standard timeline, I want to have my date and time on the far left. We're going to have that severity next. And then sometimes I'll have the asset here in that third field. Sometimes I won't. So just getting things organized. As I go through, I'm simply going to rapidly scroll, and then on my right side, which you can't see right now, I have a notepad. I've just opened that up, and right off the bat, I'm seeing some sort of obfuscated Golang binary. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that full file path, and I'm going to add that to my keyword list on the right over here. I see a readme.txt. That appears to be for a hacker tool. Not sure yet. Not quite enough context there. So I see advanced IP scanner down here. I also see admin1 associated with that advanced IP scanner. Let me see. This does appear to be in the same approximate time frame. So really, what I'm doing is I'm going through and I'm rapidly getting an understanding of the types of things that have been detected. I'll scroll down a little bit more. I see there's a WannaCry detection, WannaCry ransomware, so that's fairly concerning. And I'm just going to grab a couple of these basically keywords to search for later, and we're going to use that. We're going to search those things up here in this search window at the top. So that's probably enough for now. If I were to scroll down, I'll see that there's a bunch of Windows Defender threat detections. We would then see that Windows Defender was disabled using the Windows Defender, basically the disabling tool, dcontrol.exe. I'll go ahead and grab that as well. And it definitely appears that C Windows Temp Tools directory is where the attacker dropped all of their tooling. So I'll quickly sort the other way. And when we look at all of the low findings first, just in this particular case, it's kind of a shortcut for the demo, I will see that there are a ton of failed logins. And one of these failed logins will have another keyword that I want, or I guess string to match, and that's going to be this IP address. Now, this is a simulated Iranian IP address. We'll go ahead and we'll look at that a little bit later. So right off the bat, going through rapidly as an experienced investigator, I've gotten a few things. One, I have a piece of WannaCry malware. I see this failed login from a public IP. If I recall, this is probably going to be an SMB attempt, so like a type 3. There is actually the name of the attacker's workstation. Let me find that type real quick. Yep, login type 3. Now, if you've done this for a while, you'll know, and you've seen a lot of these brute force attacks, you'll actually see a ton of type 3 attacks, type 3 failed authentications in your internet exposed RDP. And then after that, you'll see a type 3 successful authentication, and then you'll start seeing those type 10 RDP authentications. The reason for this is a lot of the brute force tools out there actually use the SMB protocol to test their credentials first. So you'll see type 3, type 3, type 3, type 10. And that type 10 login is that RDP, and you're generally only going to see the successful ones. Not always true, but that's the pattern that we've been seeing. What I suspect is that the attackers are using the tool Hydra to do that brute force attack on Kali Linux, and we've seen this many, many times in the past several months. So let me do my second phase here, and then we're going to start doing a little bit of investigation. So now that I have an idea of what has occurred, I have a couple things to look for, some keywords. I want to see the order in which they occurred. And we can see fairly quickly. I'm going to scroll through this as fast as I can, but there are a lot of attacks here, or a lot of attempts. And you'll see it's very clear that this is a brute force attack. And if we were to dive into each one of these, they all have the same source IP address. These are all going to be type 3s. And then you'll start to see some of these type 3 successful logins. Now, this is where I start to pivot a little bit. Make sure that this is actually the correct thing. And what I'll do is I'm going to go ahead and mark these as successful. So what happened is the attacker discovered successful credentials in the middle of their brute force attack here, because there were continued failed login attempts afterwards. And if you've used these brute force tools before, you'll see that effectively it'll return a successful login, and then it'll continue through the rest of the list for that brute force attack. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start adding flags. And this one is going to say, I'm just going to mark this as a bookmark and initial access, because this is something I want to come back to later. I'm not going to go through and do this very thoroughly with every situation. I just want to demonstrate, I'm starting to exit that first responder, that first do. I know we now have, this is probably somewhere between smoke and fire showing. And I'll be articulating the severity of the incident to the victim before too long. So we see Windows Defender threat detected. I'm going to add another note here, another flag here. I'm going to just create these as bookmarks for now. I'll probably have to create some custom tags later. And PSExec service installation. We're going to call this propagation potentially. Again, I'm forming some investigative hypotheses. I'm going to filter on these flags later in the investigation so that I get a smaller view. Let me see if I can get one more in here. And then we'll start playing with some of the other filters and showing some of the other items up here. I think there's quite a lot of activity. Definitely some signal, but it's a lot of the same signal, so might as well be noise. And this is where we start to come into the third phase. So I've got an idea of what happened. I see that there was a brute force attack, most likely for initial access. And we see some PSExec activity. Now I want to start using some of our preset filters. This is what we call our MITRE Attack Analyzer. And in our MITRE Attack Analyzer, really cool functionality. So one of the places that I'll start is, hey, Sophie, we can hear your keyboard, FYI. One of the places that I'll start is looking at the external remote services, at least when I see RDP access. And you'll see it automatically filters every failed and successful login, or at least the ones that were detected. Now, what you're going to see in this findings view is not going to be all of the raw artifacts. These are going to be the artifacts that we detected on. So as I stated before, we're going to see the type 3s. And when we see the type 3s in this situation, because this is what we detected on immediately after a brute force attack. If we, as we were to dig into further the remainder of the what do you call them? Windows event logs, we'll see the type 3s and then the type 10s immediately after. So
Hey,
a couple.
Lee,
Yes.
sorry to interrupt. I'm hearing that there might be an issue with your mic, possibly two mics open.
Let me see what I can do about that.
Oop.
Oh, it does. It does have two mics open. It doesn't give me an option.
Ah.
Let's see. Does that help at all? Or maybe
It wasn't so bad for me.
It might be echo from your side, Sophie. If you could mute your mic.
Trying. Here we go.
Is that any better, folks? I will continue on and wait to see if I have any more echo. So awesome. Yeah, we've gone through. I've got some keywords over on the side, things like teamer viewer.exe, C Windows temp tools, PS exec, and so on. We've got an order of operations from the attack here, RDP as a very strong hypothesis for initial access. And then we have some PS exec after the fact. And now I'm going through and I'm digging into some of these preset filters. I would do a little bit more of a thorough job. Right now, I'm just kind of hitting the highlights. So let me go ahead and take a look at some of these other items. We'll see in the MITRE ATT&CK analyzer up top, you'll see that we have color-coded findings. So orange is for medium, red is for high. And you'll see, like in this privilege escalation, it's going to be red if there is at least one high finding. If we were to scroll down, oops, I'm outside of the box. If we were to scroll down, I'd have to see exactly which one that is. But there will be a high finding in there. And in the defense evasion, we have these obfuscated files. And we have one, I'll minimize this a little bit. We have one that was historical, some encoded PowerShell. I think this is actually a false positive or maybe a leftover from a previous exercise. But the rest of these are going to be a variety of detections on the same piece of most likely malware. So I can simply, I'm going to take a look at that. There's a bunch of match strings. Definitely looks like something obfuscated. I don't have the full data on that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that file hash. I can simply click the copy button and open VirusTotal. And there's two things that scare me in VirusTotal. The first thing that scares me is when I pop something open and everything is red. And I'm like, okay, this is bad, but at least we know what it is. The thing that scares me a little bit more in VirusTotal is when I drop a file hash or something in there and it's never been seen before, because that will generally mean that it's been compiled specifically for this attack. In this case, what we're going to have is basically a sliver command and control binary. Not super terrifying, but definitely something we're going to want to take a look at and grab a copy of. And I'll show just a couple more of these to give further example. And for anyone else out there, is my mic a little bit better at this point? Second, as we go through and I click on another one of these, we'll see that this basically the masquerading files, this svc host.exe, we'll find pretty quickly also that this is, if I drop this in VirusTotal, it's definitely WannaCry, and it lights up like a Christmas tree. Also, whoever is not detecting this, I'm not going to say anything bad about other folks, but yeah, if you don't detect WannaCry, might want to evaluate your signatures. Awesome. So once we get through there, I want to show you just a couple of other things. One, let's look at the search bar up top. So this is that IP address that we copied a little while ago, the one that committed the brute force attack. And as you'll see, we have two different sets of event records here. One are the ones where we have detections, and this should read detected event records, and the other one is effectively all event records. So we've got 518 detections for this IP address, and there's 844 total entries. Some of those are detected, some of them are not. You can do the math. I'm not going to try to do that in my head during a demo. Now, let's see. We'll see. We can see right off the bat. We saw some of the. Here we go. This is perfect. So we'll see that there will normally be a pairing of a type 3 and then a second type 10 authentication associated with these bad logins. Now, there's probably some further research to be done here. I know on the first login, using something like a Hydra, that Hydra will do an SMB authentication. However, in this scenario, an attack that I conducted myself, I'm also seeing these type 3 logins immediately preceding an RDP session, and that's using another. I can't remember exactly which tool it was, like free RDP or XRDP on the Kali box, and it may be doing the same thing. It may be sending an SMB authentication just prior to a type 10 RDP. So just another one of those artifacts to look at. You can draw some reasonable. You can do some deducing from that and help determine the type of attacker, or at least the platform the attacker might be using to conduct that attack. I'll drop some other items in here. We'll see. This is the host name of the attacker's box. We see that those are also going to be in some of these detected event records and the global event records. I'm not going to go through all of these, but you'll get the idea. Again, this is going to be mostly, I think these are going to be authentications. And if we're going to spend any more time on this, I would also reconfigure this view. Again, I reset everything. It does have a memory, so if you reset your view for a particular evidence type, the order of all of your columns and tabs and everything will all be the same. And we'll just grab a couple more of these. Let's look at teamreview.exe. Now, one thing I haven't gone over in this demo, now that we've gone through the, we've done the first responder stuff, we're seeing that there's definitely some login activity from RDP. Now we want to start answering these core 4 investigative questions. Does the attacker still have access? Which systems are affected? How did the attacker initially get in? And lastly, was any data stolen? And if so, which data? So in this case, I want to look at this teamreviewer.exe. I skipped over it, but if we look at those detections, we have a good hypothesis that this is going to be a remote access Trojan sliver. I want to know if this is actually currently running in memory. It doesn't look like it based off of these records here, at least not running in memory on any of these systems. But I'll go ahead and take a look at some of these other artifacts. And if I were to look at the details of this amcache file, let's see. Not going to give us the information I was hoping for on that one. Let's take a look and see if we can find something else. We'll just pop through a couple of these so that you get an idea of the types of things that can be detected. I'm going to click the amcache file for decontrol.exe. Now, when I'm clicking on these various items down here, there's some interesting things that are happening. Number one, the very first thing that normally pops up will be the findings view, and that's right over here. So what that is, that we have Yara Sigma OS query and our own internal Dynamo rules that we write detections with. That's not going to be the full forensic artifact, but it will link back to the forensic artifact. Now these other items, so you see the amcache file. This is actually a parsed amcache file. We're looking at the raw artifact. That artifact will be saved in your evidence repository as raw. It can be viewed in any other tool. We are then parsing and interpreting that file like any other forensic platform, and that's what we're looking at here. Is we're looking at our interpretation and the raw view, or the view of this raw artifact. Same thing, this MITRE attack. This is basically a different view for our detections, individual detections, and we'll also see we're parsing the user assist key as well. This one's really interesting because it shows us that the admin1 user was the one that executed decontrol.exe. So at this stage, we can say conclusively that admin 1 was a compromised user, and was that one. If we dig into the details a little bit further, we'll see that dcontrol.exe was executed, and that's how Windows that's how the Windows Defender was disabled. And with that, are there any questions out there related to any of this, Sophie?
There were a couple which Tim kindly answered. I have, let's have a look. So the first was whether the product was Windows centric, which we've covered. So I don't know whether you want to show the acquisitions at all.
I can certainly do that. Let me see. Let me edit one. So our platform runs on, you'll see it here in just a second. Well, it is complaining at me. I have too many virtual machines running in the background. Long story short is, if I were to add a new profile, it does run on, there we go. It runs on Windows, Linux, and macOS. We also have offline collectors for IBM AIX, and there's one other one. It's the VMware ESXi. That's an offline collector also. And then the eDiscovery collection at the bottom. This is, it's basically, it runs across all operating systems, and it's effectively a collection of file extensions that are user created, regardless of what that tool might be. User created files from an engineer's perspective, from a finance team's perspective, from a general user's perspective, etc. Any type of, anything that might be created at the behest of a user is collected with our eDiscovery collections. And of course, you can. It's very selectable. You can collect. You can select any of these various artifacts that you might want to, and you pick and choose as required. But yes, we run across all operating systems. And I had some I was actually a customer of Binalyze before I came on full time. And we ran across some I know we have at least one member in the audience that worked with me before. We had some crazy versions of Linux that I just hadn't encountered before. Runs on all of them so far. And if not, let us know, and we'll work with the engineering team to make updates or compile on whatever random Linux operating system you happen to encounter. What other questions do we have at this stage that might be useful for the demo, Sophie? You're muted. You're muted, Sophie.
Sorry, I'm terrified of not muting myself next time. It was just the question around whether outside of the table view, the ways that we have good ways to see the signal from the noise, basically. Graph views, any graphical views, and Tim mentioned the MITRE map, heat map.
Yeah, there's a couple. We're actively working on more views, more visualizations, and things along those lines. So one is the MITRE heat map, so you can get an idea of which where you have a cluster of I guess attack techniques. It can be quite useful. I think most of the cases that I get involved in, I'm late stage. Like I get called in as an escalation point. But we do have several of our SOC teams that use the heat map. That's where this feature request came from. So I like that one quite a bit. Next is actually a natural segue into our new timeline feature. So let me scroll up just a little bit, make sure I have visibility into everything, and I'll go into our timeline view that was just released a couple weeks ago. We already have some feature requests for this, and some things are going to come. But if you have other questions or immediately see a feature request for our timeline view, please post it. We'll capture it, and we'll take that back to our engineering team. So first off, timeline view has a couple of interesting things. One, at the very top, we have our global filters. So you can set this filter. It's going to apply to everything. And the filters in this particular view go from the top down. So for example, if all I want to look at in all of my data is domain controller 1, I could select that here, and that's going to translate over to my findings view and everything else. A global filter means it applies globally to everything within one case. You can see that there's lots of other things that I could include or filter on based on evidence category. A good one here is I'll normally start with the detected event logs, and I will exclude all of the event logs just because there's so many of them. And then once I get an idea and have some flags in a case, I would then exclude the detected event logs and include the real ones. Again, there's a lot of duplication there, so you get a lot of extra lines that can be difficult to scroll through. Regardless, lots of things to filter on from the global filters. Next down, we have our first graph here, and you'll see I can hold the Shift or Control buttons. If I hold the Shift button and a mouse wheel in, you'll see that it zooms in or zooms out. Next, if you pay attention to the one on the bottom, if I hold Control and I use the mouse wheel, it can go left to right. So in this case, I would want to zoom in. I can see that there's a big spike of activity in July. This is fairly clear. This lab environment was set up, or at least for this attack, in July. You can also, if you were to scroll out, you would see the other activity from the other dates that I had large demos in the past, or at least demos where I didn't fully revert back to a snapshot. And in the bottom, so we'll click on, or I'll show you kind of the power of timeline, just like any other timeline that we have been using for the past 15 or 20 years. In this case, I'll see this device. Actually, let me scroll down and find a little bit of a better one. Let's see this amcache file. So we'll see psexec.exe, and then around that, you can see what was collected. Actually, let's go up above that. Some things that we did not see in the findings are going to be this targets.csv. I'm probably going to see a few of those. Oops, I think I clicked the wrong thing. So we'll see that targets.csv, yeah, always seems to be multiple link file interactions. We can see some browser history where it appears that the attacker actually navigated to that from basically the file explorer, or possibly Edge. The point is, even if we don't have a detection that I guess sees the attacker activity, we are collecting something like 500 to 600 artifacts across all operating systems that we support, and we do see a lot of that other activity. Same thing, we see that psexec was executed. We also have the other correlating data around that to increase the confidence of your investigative or analytical assessment. Very powerful. We do have some other feature requests on this, and we're going to be improving already. We're going to be improving the user experience, and can't wait to see what comes with that. So with that, I'm going to wrap this demo up. Any questions before I move on to the next section? Our second large thing to come out of 5.0.
Nothing in particular. Tim is on fire keeping track of the answers.
Awesome. Thanks, Tim. Great. So we still have a little bit of work to do on being able to show the interaction with an EDR, legalese and permissions and those types of things. It's easy for us to keep our demos within our own platform. We need agreements to show other platforms. Regardless, we do have internally in our lab environment the ability to do this automation with an EDR. We work with basically all of our customers are integrated with other tools in their tool stack, and we did go through and show several of the key features within the platform. One of the other things that I want to show is, or at least it's can be difficult to demo, at least at the moment, is we exposed our entire API. So we talked with a huge number of customers. We got a lot of feature requests, sat down, did investigations. We called those ride-alongs with several of our customers. And the thing that we found is we needed to extend our API. So we had a great conversation with a long form and great conversation with our executive team and our engineers. And we decided, you know what? We just need to expose our whole API. So literally everything that every API endpoint that we have is now exposed for our customers. Of course, this is all behind your authentication, your API tokens, things along those lines. But if you can do it in the user interface, you can also do it through the API. Everything, every button click can be simulated. Everything that you need to do can be done here, and that means that we can interact wherever we need to, anywhere in your workflow, from supporting data collection, analysis, or validating alerts, automatically running detections. So collection, detection, analysis, all the way through to reporting. We didn't cover a reporting feature today. We're going to be improving that this year as part of 5.0 also, or the 5.0 longer term suite. So quite excited there. The second thing that we did is we worked very closely with Nodemation, or N8N, as many of us call it. And what N8N is, and sorry, I'm not prepared for the demo with this today. That one comes, that first demo is next week. And then I think that one's for existing customers, but we'll do one for all of you guys also. Think of Nodemation not as a security orchestration platform, but as a business orchestration platform. There are a lot of other security tools that integrate with it natively, but imagine integrating, imagine your consultancy, and you get a call for service, and you need to go ahead and spin up a new tenant. You can very easily do that with a graphical, basically no-code integration. You can then send the data or the findings from Binalyze over to your own report template with Google Drive or Office 365, et cetera, et cetera. It integrates with HubSpot or with Salesforce, your CRM. It can integrate with your billing systems, et cetera. So the purpose of the N8N here is to make it easier for you to interact with your business, either as a consultancy, an MSSP, or even an enterprise. So great for workflow automation, inside and outside of security. Great for business efficiency. Really excited to bring some of these features to you. In fact, I'm having some of our first conversations with our customers with really out-of-the-box ideas on Friday. Myself, our CEO, and one of our larger customers really have some great brainstorming sessions coming up, and can't wait to bring some of that to everybody else. And with that, I think on to the Q&A. If we have any questions left.
Let me see if there's anything new. There have been a couple of questions around feature requests, so we've taken note of those. If I have missed someone's questions, please feel free to type it again. I think I caught most of them, but we do have a couple more minutes here with Lee, so if there's anything else that comes to mind, please do take the opportunity. I've shared a link to the N8N page for anyone who wants to have a look at that. And shortly, I will be sharing a CTA link to our case study library as well. So you can have a look at how some of our existing customers use AIR, whether they're MSSPs or enterprise customers. I don't see anything new coming in here, so looks like everyone is digesting everything that's been here. I will swap the CTA again just for the free 14-day AIR trial for anyone who's new and who wants to give it a go. Otherwise, thank you very much, Lee, for your time. Thank you, everyone who joined us today, and have a wonderful rest of the day and rest of the week.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.